Once he gets back from his suspension, I truly think that Myles Garrett will take the crown from Aaron Donald as the best defensive player in the NFL. How you guys doing? It is July 10th, 2020. Here in this quarantine, I'm James Sims here bringing you the elite profiles of the athletes in the U.S. or just around the world that I kind of find elite that I just kind of want to make known. For this segment, I'm going to talk about the defensive end for the Cleveland Browns, known as Myles Garrett. If you don't even watch football and if you keep tabs with American sports, you're aware of Myles Garrett for his situation this past season where he swung a helmet at a Steelers quarterback and it was pretty bad. Yes, of course, the optics look bad. Like, that scenario is bad. He definitely should not have done that. Still doesn't take away from the fact that he might be the best pound for pound athlete in football that isn't Aaron Donald. His rare combination of size, speed, athleticism, despite that, like, added on to the fact that he's had this hype coming out of high school and he's basically kind of done what he's had to up until this point. I think he's definitely on a course with some of the great young defensive players as being like he's going to be in the conversation for as one of the best players in football at one point. So, give you a little bit of background. He grew up in he grew up in Texas. Of course, he ended up going to Texas A&M after being one of the top prospects in the nation. I think ESPN rated him as the number one overall defensive end, at least. His freshman year, he would go on to be second team All SEC. As a freshman, he got 11 sacks on the season, 50 total tackles on the season. No, because that was Myles Garrett doing what he was doing, but he was a second team All SEC in a very, very stacked SEC, might I add, his freshman year. I think that was mad impressive. Following that up, his sophomore year, he was first team All SEC. He won the Bill Willis Award for the best defensive lineman. He was a first team All American. While playing, this is the only season he played all 13 games. He got 11 and a half sacks on the season, 20 tackles for loss, 5 forced fumbles. This is when Myles Garrett solidified himself as at least a top draft pick. Naturally, with all these players, I think he's a little bit ahead of Chase Young on that trajectory. I think they have the same trajectory, but Myles Garrett's like 3 or 4 years ahead of him. So that's why I think Myles Garrett's going to take it right now, and Chase Young's going to take it from him. And then, of course, in his last season, he only played 10 games. He still finished with 8.5 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, first team All SEC again, first team All American, kind of just doing what he was doing because he suffered a high ankle sprain in the fourth game of the season and he missed a couple games, but he still ended up doing what he needed to do to be the number one overall pick in the 2017 draft to the Cleveland Browns, where in his first year he was to get 7 sacks in 11 games. He only started 9 of them because remember he was hurt. They didn't want to rush him back. In his second year, he was able to become a Pro Bowl in his age 23 season with 13 and a half sacks in 16 games. The only season in which he played 16 games. And yeah, that was the only time he made a Pro Bowl. And then last year, in the 10 games he started and played, he was able to get 10 sacks. He was definitely on pace to have a better season than he did last year, but around week 10, week 11, he was given an indefinite suspension for swinging his helmet and trying to hit a Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback. I don't even remember which quarterback it was, and it was last year. That's how irrelevant it was, how irrelevant the quarterback was, but that's not the case. I think the NFL is going to give Myles Garrett a hearty suspension. Probably suspend him for the first 4 games of the season, then they might bring him back. But don't be mistaken. Once Myles Garrett comes back, he will be the most dominant defensive player. Like, he will be what Khalil Mack was when he got to Chicago. He's shown that he's that player. The only question is he gonna be like, how is he injury prone? Is he gonna leave the Cleveland Browns? Because the way he's set up, he has Sheldon Richardson at least on the line. Not really that you don't have that many great linebackers. I guess you have Denzel Ward, Carl Joseph, and Grant Delpit, and Greedy Williams. They have a pretty good secondary, but it's like he could literally go anywhere else if this Cleveland Browns offense, if the Cleveland Browns don't click it together. I would understand it if he left. If he wanted to stay, I'd understand that too. But I just think that this is a very, very good young player with a bright future. And a lot of the younger players that I talked about, I said that they would hit their point, they would hit their peaks a little later and then start dominating. I think if you start watching this year, once or just wait until Myles Garrett gets back, because once Myles Garrett gets back, he will have a legitimate argument for himself as being the best defensive player in football. So, I mean, with all that, there's nothing else I can really predict. There's no point of really throwing hypotheticals out there. I'm just here just to urge you to at least give Myles Garrett a watch. If you're watching the Cleveland Browns, just Baker Mayfield, Odell Beckham when they're like when they're off the field. Like, you have to know that Myles Garrett, pound for pound or for his position, is probably the best player on that team. But I can get into that a completely different day. I have Odell Beckham listed as elite, and I can go into him in that point as well. Thank you once again for just taking the time to just listen and hear this out. I really, really appreciate Myles Garrett's game because, of course, like I'm a fan. Like, sports are entertainment, and I feel like if I'm gonna be a sports fan, I might as well get to see all these young players before they become Hall of Fame level talents. And I think Myles Garrett will become a Hall of Fame level talent. And if you watch football, despite his actions, he's a Hall of Fame level player, and you can't deny that. So with that, I'm just gonna say thank you for listening in, and I wish you the best. Peace.